kind of following up on this idea of
Mm,
context. But I
mm,
know many of our educators, they deeply want to think about context when they're creating learning
yeah,
experiences for their
absolutely.
students. So
Hmm.
what do you think, what does it mean to do that, to understand context and then to take it into our instructional thinking and planning and creating those experiences for students?
Well, it's everything, right? That a simple thing, like, I know at your university, like the favorite color is red. And so if I'm going to give a presentation at your university, like I might use the color red in my slides, or I might wear a red tie, right? It's that simple, right? It's understanding like a kid preference. Oh, the kids in this room like Pokemon. So if I'm going to give a math example, I might count Pokemon. Or the kids in this room really enjoy thinking about automobiles and how they work. So if I'm going to give an example of process, I can use an engine as an example, right? It's really considering everything from people's like social desires to their aspirations, to their culture, to their community. It's understanding all of those things and doing everything we can to ensure that those things are present in my lessons, right? I was teaching perimeter the other day, just like, perimeter, like really like teaching kids to measure like the perimeter of like shapes and of and there's that math question that is in every math textbook, I think, where the kids have to measure the perimeter of a pool, right? And in my community, children don't have swimming pools. I live in New York City, and so measuring the perimeter of a swimming pool is really kind of an unrealistic ask, right? And so
Mhm.
I had kids measuring the perimeter of the schoolyard, or measuring
Right.
the perimeter of like the apartment building, like, because that's more real. And so it's that simple, right? Considering context, right? And being able to look at the math textbook and say, this is a wonderful textbook, but this question is mismatched to
Mm.
the context of my community, right? And so kids here don't have swimming pools in their communities. Rather, we have playgrounds and parks. And so instead of measuring the perimeter of a swimming pool for the math problem, we're going to measure the perimeter of a play yard, right? That it was that simple, and I think so many times we accept the materials that we are given, or
Mhm.
we accept the mandates that we are handed, and we don't have to. We can question those things. And my first question is always, is this thing that I'm being asked to do suited powerfully enough to the community that I am dedicated to serving? That I'm being asked to do this thing, is it suited to the community? Or what alterations or remixes or reimaginings will I have to make sure that this thing is more perfectly suited to my community? It's a really easy ask, but then it
Mhm.
does such powerful like stuff for kids. Again, like the kids in my community love Pokemon, right? And so I can count using counting cubes in math. But if I say pretend that the counting cubes are Pokemon, all of a sudden they come to life. They sit up straighter, right? Like it's
Right.
a very, very easy shift. And so I'm always thinking, but again, we think about like people's aspirations, their culture, their community, their experiences, all of those things belong in my classroom. And I can only welcome them in if I listen powerfully and if I'm willing to be flexible enough to change how things are in order to better reflect the community that I serve.